Welcome back to another exciting episode of Tango Romeo 87, where we're working in a different area today doing something just a little bit different. As you all know, we're converting an old church into our house, and this wood shop, in its current unfinished state, is a section of the church that we just simply cut off and is now standalone, and it'll become a nice wood shop one day when money becomes available. But today we're going to talk about how to do things in a woodworking shop without spending a lot of money. Maybe you're a beginner, maybe you just got a few projects around the house that you need to take care of. You want to save a bunch of money and you want to make a big positive change. Now we're going to do a whole series of a lot of videos talking about how to build this or how to build that, and we're going to use a lot of pine and we're going to use a lot of affordable tools. I belong to several woodworking groups on social media, and the common theme in there when a beginner comes along, and one of them is a beginner um, group, beginner comes along and asks for advice on, I need to buy a router to do this. And it's always pull the trigger on the biggest money items there are, like brand names are the only thing that work. I've found in my shop that I don't have to spend that money because I'm not going into professional cabinet making, not at this point. I just want to have some fun in the wood shop and I don't want to bankrupt myself. So today's video, we're going to take some basic dimensional 1x4 lumber and turn it into some beautiful molding upgrades for your house. And we're going to do it with tools that cost less than $60. So the only thing you need to do this project is obviously a tape measure. I didn't count that in the $60 because I figure if you're doing woodworking, you probably already have one around. Some sort of affordable square that actually has a good 45-degree side on it. I like a speed square because you can get all your angles. Pencil, you need a router, and you need a miter box to cut your angles and to cut your molding at the lengths you need them. But this whole series is going to be on building nice things for your house that you can build out of pine. We're going to do a lot of work with 2x4s, turning 2x4s into beautiful furniture. But let's get into this video, get some molding made today. And molding is a thing that can make a drastic change in a room or your entire house. Paint a room, put new molding up, and not that cheap little thin. I'm so disappointed in the big box stores. Little 3/8 of an inch thick, 2¼ inches wide, and a little bit of routing done on it, and they want $12 to $20 for a piece of it, and it honestly looks like crap. So what we do is a more traditional 3½ inch wide, 3/4 of an inch thick. This is the type of woodwork you used to see in your grandma's house, and it looks like it has more quality, even if it's made out of pine. It can be stained or painted. Like I said, let's cut this. Let's get to the part of the video where we show you the cheap tools that are super affordable to do this job. For today's project, I went out and bought brand new tools off of Amazon, and I will put those links below so that you can buy the tools that we're going to test in this video. And there may be a giveaway in this video, so stick around and subscribe to the channel. Give us a big thumbs up. Put a comment down below your thoughts on what we're doing here today, and join us on a long journey of affordable woodworking. The first thing we're going to look at today is a miter box. This was like, I don't remember, less than $15. And it will do the job. Over the years, I have done a lot of work with just a simple little cheap miter box. This was, I don't remember, $35, $39. By far the cheapest router that I could find that was decent. Comes with an instruction manual. Comes with a bag of parts. These are the edge guides and rolling guides that you need if you're going to do this by hand. This one came, believe it or not, with a whole set of router bits. And it's a pretty decent little set. I'm sure that they're not carbide, and I'm sure that they're not designed to last a lifetime. But with some router bits costing $50, $60, $70, the fact that you get a whole box of those things and 15 pieces of them with your $30-something router, and came packaged in a nice box. Teeno, Teeno, T-E-E-N-O, not Temu. I thought about doing Temu, but I didn't want to wait 3-4 weeks to get the stuff. So I paid a little bit more on Amazon, but also like Amazon's return policy. If I were to make this whole video and determine that this was a piece of garbage, Amazon will send me a shipping label and I can send it right back. But the feel of it, the feel of the cord's real flexible and smooth like silicone. The switch for the router is on top. It's got a really nice adjustable depth gauge that just, you can use a roller to roll. You don't have to just guess. Pretty nifty, really. It's got a center line, so it lines up with the bit on both sides, which we'll need that later, and a place to attach all the tools, or you can just loosen this and snap it off so that you can change your bits. Now the bag came with all kinds of cool stuff, but one of the things it came with was a set of wrenches so that you can use the small wrench to hold the core, and you can use the big wrench to tighten your router bit in. It also came with two, I saw it there a minute ago. Oh, came with another ferrule insert to go inside here so that you can use different size bits. The bits that came with it have a 1/4 inch shaft on them, which I use a lot. Some people tell you don't try to do anything without a 1/2 inch slot. But you can just pick a router bit. We'll take a core box bit, pop it into the hole, and tighten it down. Give it a little torque, and now your bit's installed in the router. Line your gears back up, and you have a depth gauge even on the side. I didn't notice that, in inches and centimeters, so you can go 1 inch, 1/2 inch. Pretty good stuff, guys. And this router is super affordable. All right, so we'll take this screw out of the side with a washer, and then this will mount on here. This is this angle piece, and it mounts on the side, and there's grooves, so you'll know that the grooved end goes right in that channel, and then you can put this screw back in. What that does, give me just a second. They didn't shave any money off by giving you a short screw. They gave you the full length screw for your money on these things. Okay, with that mounted on the router, by loosening that bolt, you can adjust the depth of your guide, how far down on the board it's going to go in case you're doing something thicker. The next thing that you'll need is an edge guide. This mounts on the bottom side of the router, and it moves in and out, and it determines where this sits on the board. I'll show you in just a second. I would adjust that up. So you set it on your bench, and you can literally route a straight line, which is something that we're going to need to do today, and something you'll need to do in other projects quite often. Let me take a little break and rearrange some things here, and we'll fire this thing up and we'll cut some molding. Quick process, not going to take you long to do. And then I'll take you in the house and show you some of the molding that I just made and put up on a really cool wall that I made out of 2x4s that I ran through the table saw. You're going to like that wall. Got it plugged in. I did turn it on, and relatively quiet. Made a few tests with it just to see what was going on. With the blades that came with it, you've got, and these are metric, so I don't know, Canadian, or UK or something. You got a 6mm cove box bit, which is pretty cool, small. You got a V grooving bit, which cuts a V groove, and then we have this 3mm cove box bit. Now, what I did inside that I'll show you in a little bit on that beautiful wall is a 3/8 cove box bit. But I think for what we're going to do today, we're going to use a V bit. Now, there's several ways you can get this set up. Grab you a piece of scrap wood of any kind out of your scrap pile, and you can actually then run your depth to see if you like it, get it where you want it to be. The biggest thing I believe in woodworking is, can you duplicate what you did? So if today you make some molding, next Tuesday can you come in and make that same molding again? So keep a little notepad around and make some measurements. Now when you're making molding, your bit doesn't need to be that deep, and there's several ways that you can determine what that depth is. You can make your practice piece, determine what it is that you like, what it looks like, and keep that scrap piece, and then the next time you're making molding, you can set that right back in, set all your height, and be ready to rock and roll. The other way is, and there's really no way to use a measuring tape to accurately, I mean, you can get close, that's reading an 1/8, I don't know if you can see it, because I want this to be 1/8 of an inch deep. Now I've got this little tiny square that I bought somewhere along the line. I can put it on there and it gives me a more accurate measurement of 1/8. But I also keep this little set of tools in my shop that wasn't expensive. And what this is, these are precision measurement guides that says this one is 1/8 inch thick, this one is 1/2 inch thick in case you need to set something up at 1/2 inch. You can take these and lay them across that router where you get both sides covered, and then line it up until it's just at the top edge of that, and you've got 1/8 inch depth. That's the easiest to reduplicate, but I've also done it the other way by keeping my piece of scrap and resetting it up. But currently I have that set to 1/8 inch in depth, and I think I like that. It actually takes longer to talk about making molding than it does to make it. Now you have a center line on your router that'll tell you when you're centered up with the bit. Now keep in mind, I'm making what I think is some really cool molding, but you've got a box of bits and you can make it your own. Make it any way you want. I'm going to give you a guideline that makes some pretty cool looking stuff. So I want to come in 3/4 of an inch, so I'm going to set 3/4 on my tape and move my guide in 3/4 to 3/4 of an inch on that center line. And it is a precise measurement, so take your time, kids. Make sure you got it right. And we are set to 3/4 of an inch right there. So now our router bit is 1/8 inch deep, and it's 3/4 from the edge of our wood. So to make our first cut in our molding, and we're going to just use a V bit today, we will use this piece of scrap. You can use 8-foot pieces, whatever you need to do to make your molding. We've got our bit 1/8 of an inch high, and we've got our guide 3/4 of the inch from center. So when we put this on, we want to make sure that we use our thumb here on the guard to make sure that that stays flat. You don't want to go in leaning like this or leaning like this. You want that flat, naturally flat. Then you want your guide all the way against. So keep your thumb here starting out and grab your router, get a nice firm grip on it, and get that fence against. Make sure you're tight so it doesn't move. The first cut, when we first go in, is going to be the most difficult because you're only sitting on this much of the guide. And that's where usually, as a beginner or even a more experienced guy, you get a little wiggle in that route. But once that gets started, as long as you keep this fence down and keep pressure down, that'll naturally stay flat on the surface. So let's make our first groove cut up through there and get this thing going. So we got our first groove in. To make a second groove, we're at 3/4 now. I want to move out 1/2 of an inch. So I'll loosen this and go out to 1 1/4 inches. Set my lock on my tape. And I'll come out to 1 1/4 from that center line, slide my guide in, get my guide at 1 1/4, and then we'll make our second cut. And now we'll be over here 1/2 inch further than that first cut. Now you've got 2 nice grooves in this wood, and you might think that's all you want, but I'm going to put 4 total. So I'll just keep moving over 1/2 an inch, and we'll just keep cutting this. And once that's done, we'll show you how we cut it for the corners. We've got our 4 grooves cut. We'll just roll it over so we can take the brads out. Problem is I couldn't find my double-sided tape because that's what I would have done. So we'll just assume that this door is only going to be about this high. Just for kicks and giggles. I'm not going to do a full door for you today. So we've put our mark on there. So now we need a 45-degree cut in it to the inside of the door. So we'll come along, and I like to mark a 45 with a known true square. We have the miter box. So we've put our mark on our molding. We're going to slide that in there. We see that it's there. So we'll take our saw, and man, we've got a 45. So we'll start to cut slow. Alright, so that one's cut. As you can see, if this were our door, and it would go up that side, then we would put this piece in, touch our corners, get everything leveled, and everything lines up and makes a really cool look. Take a framing square, and we are on the money. So we got that cut. Now the problem is if you cut it at 43 and 46, you'll get this in your gap. So make sure that you mark it, and you make sure that that line gets cut at 45, and you will get this beautiful piece of molding that comes together perfectly on all the edges that you routed. And you get this really cool look. It's taken me a lot longer to talk about doing this than it actually takes. Now remember, you could always take a wide cove box bit and come out here and make a big wide mark and then make a single mark. You could look at different molding styles and determine what you want. But this makes a huge impact in your house when you remove that cheap molding that's thin and narrow, and you paint this or stain it. And like I said, I'll take you inside in a little bit and show you what we actually did with ours. Now, I'm going to quickly show you one other type of molding, which is floor molding. So, you know, big square box along the floor, not bad. I mean, that's an old-fashioned farmhouse style. But we're going to take this 1x4 and turn it into a beautiful piece of floor molding. So give me a minute to get everything set up, and I'll come back and show you that real quick, and then we'll go look at actual molding hanging in the house. And remember, depending on where you're located, 1x4s are going to run you $3 to $8. If you buy the premium ones with the least knots in them, they're probably going to run you $8 a piece. That little piece of thin molding that's half the thickness of this and only this wide at Lowe's for around your doors is $12 to $16 and higher. So you can make a big change in your house for very little money in your wood shop. let me get set up and I'll show you the other one real quick, and then we'll be done and move out of this video. All right, I've got everything set back up to switch over to doing molding for along the floor. And I already did a trial test on it because I wanted to see which bit, but this is a 1/4 inch Roman Ogie. And I think in here, and I just went with 1/4 inch out of my other box because I didn't know what R4 millimeter was. It looks like it's probably about the same. Yep. Now, with these bits, they have a bearing. So you don't need a guide because the bearing is going to roll along the lower part of the wood and only let this cut so deep. So, like I said, I already cut one side of this, but I'm going to cut the other just to show you. You just start your router. You don't need a guide. Just watch where that bearing is going to hit the corner. You don't want to miss and come back here. So, turn it on. And like that, you've cut a nice piece of molding to go along the floor. Now you could use a 1/2 inch Ogie. That makes a real classic design. So that'll sit along the floor. And instead of just having a square piece of wood, you've got a nice routed groove in it that sits down. As you paint it or stain it, as you're walking through the room, it becomes real apparent. So what I did with mine inside was I took the table saw and came down and cut 2 grooves below it just for another aesthetic. But that simple side of that is this router makes quick work even on an 8-foot piece. If it's clamped down with that bearing rolling, you're just running along. Run your router at a smooth pace. Don't try to race it. Listen to that motor. But this thing has had plenty of power to do what I'm doing today. And the bit that I currently have in there, I've already probably cut 60 foot of molding with it, so it's not a new bit. But I'm super impressed with this Teeno router with the guide. Man, I mean, it's outperformed my expectations for $39, and proof again that you don't need to buy expensive tools to get into a game. So whether you're making molding for your house, or you need a trim router, or you need a router just to do some projects in your wood shop, maybe some round over on the corners of things, I'd highly recommend that. I'll put the link below. And I'll tell you what I'll do. We talked about a giveaway. If we get 100 comments on this video, I'll randomly pick somebody in those 100 comments and reach out to you, and I'll send you this router with all the accessories. Used very little. You can have the router, and I'll even send in the miter box if you want it. Package them up, send them to you free of charge. 100 comments on the video, and we'll give the router to somebody else, because I've got 4 in the shop, but I wanted to buy this super affordable router to see. Kind of hope we only get 99 comments, because I like that router. It's super easy to adjust, super easy to work with. Comes with bits to get started so you can play with it, and you can upgrade. But you never need to go out and buy the $50 per bit. Just buy good carbide bits off Amazon, and I've been using this set in this wooden box for years, and I mean, they're well used, and I didn't pay a lot for them. I didn't go buy the big box store $50 router bit. But let me run inside real quick and show you what we've done with the molding actually in the house in place, so you can get an idea on that, and you'll get to see the wall that I built out of 2x4s. Ripped them down to 3/8 thickness and 2 7/8 wide, and then attached them to the wall. Got another wall to do in there, so if you want me to show you the process of that wall in another video, just leave a comment below and say, hey, do the other side of that wall and let us see what you're doing there, because everybody who's seen it in person has just gone, I'm going home and build something similar. So it's pretty. Let's go take a look at it. All right, guys, here's the wall that I worked on that I built out of 2x4s. It's 11 foot at the peak. I still have to do that side over there, so if you want to see it in a video where I go through the process of turning 2x4s into a wall, just let me know. But here's the molding like we've been working on. It's around the door and tied in, and we're still picking the stain color for it to match the door that came with the church. And down here is the piece of molding that we cut. I think it's still loose. As you can see, it's just a really nice piece of molding. So let's head back out to the shop and finish this video out. So there you go, folks, it's a wrap. You do not need expensive tools to do any work in your wood shop. I'll give you a breakdown real quick. I've got a Ryobi table saw that's going on its 8th year and has cut miles of lumber. Good blades in it, works fine. Cobalt chop saw that I bought on sale, it was on clearance. Cobalt router table with a router that blew up. Don't think it's an endorsement for it, but there's some good stuff on Amazon. You know, I've got tons of things like the little gauges that I've picked up over time. I've got a Bauer from Harbor Freight benchtop sander with the 6-inch disc. I've got a Bauer drill press. I've got a Win jointer, Win bandsaw tabletop, and an old antique Ryobi planer that I got from my father-in-law that I think my brother-in-law picked up at a yard sale for next to nothing. So get out there and enjoy woodworking. Go make you some molding. Go play with a router. And I'll put links below to everything that we use today so that you can see how affordable this is. And if you join a beginner group somewhere, you do not need the $3,000 SawStop saw to do 90% of woodworking projects. That's a myth, and it's just like anything else. It's like if you don't buy a brand name shirt, it doesn't wear the same as a shirt you buy at the big box store. You don't need to go with the expensive stuff. So subscribe, like the video, leave a comment, and remember, we're going to get into all kinds of things. We're going to build some end tables out of 2x4s. I built a huge entertainment center to hold a 75-inch TV, like an entertainment table, primarily out of 2x4s. Beautiful. You'll have to see that. We've got plant stands. We've built benches. I even built doors. There's one standing over here. I don't want to dig it out, but it's 2x4s trimmed down and then 3/8-inch boards all glued together in a panel door and made folding barn doors. I'll show those in another episode. And if you want to learn how to make those, leave a comment. We'll talk about how to build barn doors or cabinet doors. But you can build a ton of stuff out of 2x4s. And if you're in it to sell, I mean, you want to get into woodwork to be selling some things, we'll cover some of those things too. The napkin holders, made out of pine. You can stain these or paint them any way. I sell them unfinished or with a couple different stain. They've got holes in them for salt and pepper grinders that I sell with them. The treasure boxes, they have been big. People love them. They've got a nice little lash on them. These are made out of 2x4s. It's a unique process to make these. We'll cover that if you want. But we're just going to keep on with the channel with woodworking, and then once cold weather comes, I'll get out and do some hiking and some bike packing and some adventures and throw those in occasionally into videos. But let me help you get into woodworking at a price you can afford. But I'm going to quit rambling because I will go on forever because I love being in this shop. But I'm going to like it better when I get my insulation done and my walls up and get heat and air in here because, man, it's been hot this summer and it can't freeze in here in this winter or I'll lose my stains. But come along for the ride. We hope to see you more on the channel. We hope to see your comments, and I hope enough of you comment on this router so that one of you get it in the mail free. For those that don't want to participate, I'll go ahead and put a link below. It's like $39. You get 15 router bits with it. You get the guides. You get everything you saw us use today came with the router. So we're checking out. We'll see you in the next woodshop video.